Hey guys, I wanted to do a video about mortgage closing. I just saw this unfortunate video where this guy lost his home and got caught up in his loan getting denied moments before closing. And so I wanted to do a video to talk about my process of buying a home and how I seamlessly had a closing. And a lot of it had to do with me initially making sure that I shop mortgages. Now, in my opinion, shopping mortgages is only helpful in the sense of making sure you get the customer service, the responsiveness, and the closing you want. The mortgage rates are what they are based on your credit. So they'll all give you similar mortgage rates, but they'll have incentives. But I'll tell you what my real estate agent told me about those incentives. So when I initially put the contract in my home with Lennar, I put down earnest money to do the sale agreement, to hold the house. In that time, I was able to do mortgage shopping. I'm going to name lenders because I'm going to be honest. I can talk. So I initially went with Loan Depot. Loan Depot started the process, but I never heard from the guy again. He didn't tell me how to upload documents. I had texted him about certain things. I had texted him about pre-approval, but he was not responsive, so I didn't try no more. Then I went to see my home, and Eagle Mortgage was offering incentives. So my real estate agent said, hey, see who can offers you what, who give you the best deal. Also, the real estate company has their mortgage company. She knew the person well. She knew the vice president. She can get me in, blah, 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 whatever. So, okay, I went with those two. Then I also I applied with them, and then I also applied with Bank of America. Bank of America was not responsive. So I'm down to two between the Eagle Mortgage and between Key Mortgage. I looked at the reviews on Eagle Mortgage, and the reviews were terrible about them leaving people in the dust for closing. But I kept my application open just in case my number one choice fell through. But Eagle Mortgage was not my first choice. I already had a feeling I didn't like how they vibed. And then the Key Mortgage, they were very responsive. The lady was really nice. She talked to me personally. She did spreadsheets for me for each home, broke down percentages of how much I would pay, what the taxes would be. She was, when I mean extremely detailed. And when you're an anxious person like me, I've done my job for 20 years and I'm not an expert in real estate. And it was hard for me to go into something not knowing anything about it and just being vulnerable. But she gave me so much information to help me figure out what I want to do as far as the home costs and, what my mortgage would be based on certain areas and certain tax, just everything, lay it out. If I paid off this, then I could raise my credit score a little bit and possibly get this. Gave me everything. Eagle Mortgage did not do that. They basically just took my application and told me what to feed them. And so, also with Eagle Mortgage, they required more strenuous of a process. Their pre-approval contingencies were maybe 2 to 3 pages long. Key Mortgage was basically like just resend updated information from the information that you submitted in your application, basically. Eagle Mortgages want all this stuff like, oh, why you had an overdraft this one time? We need this and right. We need this, blah, blah. They wanted all these things that that made me nervous that if one thing would have fell through, that they would have denied me. They also asked me for repeat information. That's another thing. If you're asking me for repeat information that I've already submitted to you, and I know it's uploaded on your site, I'm not going to deal with you, because that means you're not being thorough in looking at my file. So within 30 days, when I had to make a firm decision on who it was, because they had to submit for inspection to FHA, I went with Key Mortgage. They gave me, I didn't get any incentives. This is where the incentives was broke down to me. Because I was so upset. People was getting no money down and blah, 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 and this, that, and other. And I'm like, how am I buying a house for the first time? I got to put some money down. Why, everybody else, they don't get to put nothing down, but I got to put something down. Everybody's talking about they put $1,000. I was so annoyed, and my real estate agent broke it down to me. She said, you don't get nothing for free. She said, what happens is it's kind of like a advance. So, but they're going to raise your interest rate. They'll give you the incentive, but they'll raise your interest rate. Or you cannot put any, you could put something down and your interest rate be low. And because it's a 30-year term, you would prefer the interest rate being low through that term. I said that made complete sense. But mortgage companies can't tell you that because they're trying to make money off of you. So Key Mortgage broke down to me, okay, I can give you some incentives, but if I give you this amount, this amount, this amount, this amount, this is how much your interest would make. Lo and behold, when they were close to what Lennar was offering, Eagle Mortgage was offering as an incentive, the rates between the two were the same. So it made sense to me. So I went with who would give me the lower, I went with the lower interest rate versus trying to get $4,000 or $5,000 in incentives. Okay. And so also because I was going with a certain title company, I couldn't get certain discounts on title fees because it still ended up being Lennar's title. So make sure you choose who your title company is, because I didn't know that. It ended up being Lennar's title. It doesn't matter, it got closed, but it could help with whether or not you can get lower fees on that kind of stuff. But my process went seamlessly. So we get within 10 days of closing, they ask for updated information. As long as you haven't run your credit, my ass belonged to everybody for 5 months. As long as you haven't changed your credit, I was in the period where they didn't have to run it because I was closing within a certain amount of time that still left them time for where they could use my credit that they already ran. So they didn't have to run my credit again. But you still don't want to do anything with your credit. You want to be paying down bills. I wasn't using my credit card at all. I was paying down bills just in case they reran it. I may have got a better rate. And so I paid off the American Express like she asked me to do. Paid that off. They did something where they redid my credit score. They called all the credit card companies, and not the credit card companies, the credit bureaus, and had my credit score rerun to get it over a certain amount to be eligible for the FHA. I was still being eligible for FHA, but it was something else why she was trying to get me eligible for. But that ended up not working out. And so 10 days before I send my docs to them, it was simple. Updated bank statements, show my money there, that I transferred money from my 401k, which I was using to close. Just making sure all the money's still there. We good to go. Making sure I had the check stubs to show that I was still employed. Simple. Just updated of what I already said. No big thing. And then I had basically proof of funds for the rest of the money. My earnest money was going towards my closing. So I ended up having to pay $9,000. I paid $7,500 in earnest money and $9,000 in closing costs. They were to the T on my closing. Like, this is how good this lady was. Because usually they'll tell you to go a little bit over and they'll give you a check back. But she was to the T of what my closing amount would be. So I get my clear to close which is the only time I could breathe, because it meant they had everything they needed, wasn't no issues, and we could close. So I got my clear to close, and the clear to close was only dependent on inspection or something like that. They were waiting for something, inspection or appraisals. No, yeah, something, inspection or appraisal. They was waiting on one of the two. And so I got my clear to close within the time frame that didn't require them to have to run my credit again. My closing didn't get pushed out because of anything issues with the house. So that also is what kept me from having to run my credit, because my closing date didn't get pushed out. She said, I don't want to run your credit unless we have to, because these builders, with everything being shortage on wood and all that stuff, they've been pushing people closing dates out. So she didn't want to run my credit unless she had to. So, because she didn't want to affect the numbers. Because I was like on a thin margin error. Okay. So I would say this: everybody's complaining about the process when it comes to the law. It's not Lennar. Lennar has they're a mortgage company they work with, and that mortgage company needs to be researched like every other mortgage company and stuff like that. And so I felt bad for the guy, but I think he did himself a disservice by not what am I trying to say? Not shopping and knowing the difference of what, this mortgage company doing all this and they not asking for this and they not doing. That lady took my application and just was like waiting on me, didn't communicate anything with me or anything. So they can't, and then you have to be aggressive in, okay, what do you need? Do you need something for me? Look at my application. Do you need something else? Blah, blah, whatever. And stuff like that. So, it was down to the wire so much so they needed me to sign something that I had to do I had to, sign off on my appraisal or something like that. That had to do within 48 hours, or would have pushed my closing back a couple. It was hell and fury in the beginning. Then it calmed down for a while. Then it went balls to the wall at the end. It was just like paperwork. So when I got my closing date, I went up there seamless. They had all my closing documents. My attorney was on the phone. They had emailed the package to him. He went through every paper with me. I sat in that little room, signed everything. Got my, they told me my keys was on what's this thing called? The island. So when I got back home, I just came through the garage, keys was on the island, and I'm in my beautiful house. So, that's my take on my experience with Lennar. The sales team was amazing. The manager over the development was great. He communicates well. Everybody in this situation was communicating well. So my suggestion to people, if you buy a new build, you go with the builder that communicates well. You look on YouTube for certain things like D.R. Horton. They've just built crappy houses and they present people with all these issues and stuff wrong with their house. My guy was meticulous. I had to play with him to find stuff wrong with my house. I had to be like, could you tighten that up a little bit? Could you put a little cocker? It was real simple stuff. It was they had got this house so neat and perfect before the final. There was the first walkthrough, and then I tell them what's wrong, and then they come back fix it, and then the closing walkthrough, which is the closing day. But my process was amazing. I thank God for my house. It went seamlessly. Only anxiousness I had was me just worrying because having to put my notice into my apartment was crazy, and I even put my notice in up to a month after my closing, so if I didn't close, I had somewhere to stay and find another mortgage company. So that's another thing I would suggest. If your closing date, if you have to put in for your closing, that you just either do a month to month, see if they'll do a month to month for you, or you do your lease end date a month after your closing date. So it gives you some time to look around for another mortgage company if the deal falls through. So, and usually if you put down earnest money, they'll allow you to find another mortgage company because they get the earnest money. So they know mortgages fall through. So it's not necessarily they took anything from you because the earnest money is the sales contract for it. So you just have to find a lender. So that's my suggestion that's my suggestion and my experience about what happened when I bought my new build. All right, guys, bye.